Well, welcome to the 7 steps to turn things around. Many years ago when I was starting my first business, I found myself constantly looking for ways to grow. And one of the ways that I used to do that was listening to audio tapes nonstop and turning my car into a classroom. It was in those moments I was driving around soaking up everything I could. And as I started the journey on YouTube, I thought, wouldn't it be great to have some audio tapes? Now, I know we don't do the old cassette tapes anymore, but what if you could just have something that plays while you're going about your day? So that gave me the idea for the audio tape series. And this edition of the audio tape series is all about turning things around. So if you are feeling stuck, if you're facing a situation that you know needs to change, you are in the right place. And together, we are going to explore 7 steps to turn things around. Let's walk through them together. I hope they help you as much as they've helped me. Let's look at step 1. Get honest, because that's the first step to turning things around. Have you ever felt stuck, frustrated, like something isn't working, but you can't quite put your finger on why? Yeah, I think we've all been there. And I want to share something with you that's helped me along the way. Are you ready? You can't change what you won't confront. Right there, that's the first step in turning things around, because a lot of times we think we need a new plan, or we just need the right motivational quote to help us kick things into high gear. But what we really need is honesty. Yes, honesty can be brutal. It can be humbling, but it can also be incredibly freeing, because you can't move forward if you're not willing to be real about where you are. Let me say it another way. You can't build something new if you're still pretending the old thing isn't broken. And that means we need to ask ourselves some tough questions like, am I really okay? Or am I just pretending to be? Is this relationship, job, or habit actually healthy, or am I holding on to it out of fear? Or how about this one? Have I drifted from the person I said that I wanted to become? These questions are questions that I have wrestled with on more than one occasion. And I'm telling you, it's not always fun. And it doesn't always feel great at first. But being honest is not about being stuck in guilt or shame. It's about getting clear. And speaking of clarity, that's where real change begins. Because with clarity comes direction. So here's my reflection question for you. What's one area of your life that you've been avoiding? I want you to name it. I want you to write it down. I want you to say it out loud. And I want you to take it a step further. I want you to write down 3 hard truths that you need to face in that area right now. It could be about your habits, your mindset, your finances, your relationships. Whatever it is, I want you to write it down. Because remember, you can't change what you won't confront. So give yourself permission to stop avoiding and to start growing. Because like I've already said, and it's worth repeating, clarity starts with honesty. And honesty, well, that's the first step in turning things around. So next up, you and I are going to talk about step 2, which is all about taking responsibility. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to blame? We blame the situation, we blame other people, sometimes we even blame ourselves, but in a way that keeps us stuck instead of moving forward. But here's a powerful truth. You may not be at fault for everything that's happened, but you are responsible for what happens next. And that's what this step is all about, taking responsibility. Because if you want to turn things around, you have to stop waiting for someone else to fix it. But here's the good news. You don't need them to fix it. When you take responsibility, you take back control. And it gets easier to get back on track and to move in the right direction. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that's gone wrong. It simply means refusing to stay in a place of helplessness. It means shifting from, why did this happen to me, to what can I do with what I've been given? Because you can't always control what happens to you, but you can always choose how you'll respond. And that's where freedom begins. Taking responsibility is how you move from being a passenger in your life to being the driver. It's how you stop reacting and start leading. So here's my reflection question for you. Where in your life have you been failing to respond or not taking responsibility? Maybe it's blaming a person, blaming your past, blaming your circumstances, whatever it is. I want you to take one area and reframe it. Say it like this: I take responsibility for, and then insert whatever you've identified. Even if it's messy, even if it's complicated, because one statement can shift everything. And once you do that, here's your next step. I want you to write down one choice that you can make today that puts you back in the driver's seat. Doesn't have to be a big choice. Just something small that says, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm moving forward. Because taking responsibility is how you keep turning things around. Now, next up, you and I are going to take a look at step 3, which is clarify the vision. Have you ever had one of those weeks where you're constantly busy, but at the end of it, you're not really sure that you actually accomplished anything? Yeah, I've experienced those too, and most of the time it's because we may be moving, but we're not always moving in the right direction. That's why step 3 is so important, and that is to clarify the vision. Because you can't move forward if you don't know what forward looks like. Let me say that again. You can't move forward if you don't know what forward looks like. And what can happen when we're unclear is we drift. But when we have vision, instead of drifting, we start leading. And I'm not talking about some massive 10-year life plan. I'm simply talking about a clear picture of what a better tomorrow looks like in the area that you're trying to turn around. What does a healthier you look like? What does a restored relationship look like? What does progress in your finances or your mindset actually mean? Because here's what I want you to remember. Vague goals lead to vague results. But clarity gives you direction, focus, and the motivation you need to move forward. And when you know what you're aiming for, it's a whole lot easier to say yes to the right things and no to the wrong ones. So here's my reflection question for you. What does better look like for you? In your health, in your relationships, in your finances, in your faith? What's the future that you're trying to build? I want you to get specific. Don't just say, I want to be happier, or I want things to improve. Define what that actually means. And then here's your next step. I want you to write one sentence that describes your vision in the area that you're working on. Just one sentence that paints a picture of where you're headed. Because once you know where you're going, you can start to build a path to get there. And something over the years that I found to be true is clarity creates confidence, and confidence creates momentum. So take some time to define the vision, because that's how you're going to keep turning things around. Well, next up, we're going to look at step 4, which is all about building better habits. Let's be honest. Wanting something to change is easy, but following through to get that change, well, that's where most of us struggle. And that's why step 4 is so important, and that is to build better habits. Because let's face it, you can have all the vision in the world, but if your daily habits don't support that vision, then you're just going to keep spinning your wheels. One of my favorite quotes when it comes to building habits is from the book Atomic Habits. Author James Clear says, "You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits." Which is so true. I think sometimes we wait for motivation to strike or for the right moment to start something big. But real change doesn't come from doing something big once. It comes from doing the small things every single day. Because small habits done consistently create big change over time. So my question is, what are your habits doing for you right now? Are they moving you forward, or are they holding you back? Because whether we realize it or not, we're all building habits, some of them intentional, and others are just routines that we've slipped into. But here's the good news. If a habit got you stuck, a habit can also get you unstuck. So here's my reflection question for you. What's one small habit, if practiced daily, would help you move towards your vision? Just one. Maybe this is drinking more water or taking a daily walk. Or maybe it's filling out your day planner in the morning. Or it could be setting aside 10 focused minutes for reading each day. Whatever it is, start there. You may even identify a few of these when you start to think about it. And then here's your next step. I want you to choose one habit that you're going to build this week. I want you to make it simple and be specific. And make it something you can actually follow through on. Because when you start to stack small wins, you'll start to see you can believe in new possibilities again. And before long, you're going to notice that you're moving even closer to the vision that you set. Consistent action creates lasting change. So don't underestimate the power of a small step. And choose to take one today and every day after. Well, next up, we're going to look at step 5, which is find your people. Have you ever tried to do something hard and found yourself feeling alone, like it was you against the world? It's exhausting, right? You may have started out strong, but eventually your motivation fades and your energy level runs low. And you're left there wondering, is what you started out to do even worth it? That's why step 5 is such a game changer. You have got to find your people. Because you were never meant to do this alone. And yes, this step might seem simple, but I've seen it over and over again. Having the right people in your life can make the difference between giving up and pushing through. What I've experienced over my journey is this. When you surround yourself with the right people who challenge you, support you, and remind you of who you're becoming, well, growth doesn't just happen faster, it actually holds more meaning along the way. The truth is, we all need people in our corner, people who will celebrate our wins with us, people who will call us out when we're slacking. And when it comes to those people, you don't need to have people who have it all figured out. There are no perfect people. You just need to find people who care enough to walk with you through the journey. So let me ask you this. Who's in your corner right now? Are you surrounded by people who are helping you grow? Or are the people around you pulling you off course? Because the community you're in matters. I once heard a quote that stuck with me. It said, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." It's important because integrity matters, accountability matters, drive matters. When it comes to the people we surround ourselves with, these things matter. And we don't need a crowd, we just need a few people who are committed and who are going in the same direction that we're heading. So here's my reflection question for you. Who are 3 people that you need to reach out to or spend more time with on this journey? It could be a mentor, a friend, a coach, or someone you just need to reconnect with. And then after you identify those, your next step is I want you to choose one person that you're going to connect with this week. Send the text. make the call, grab the coffee, whatever it takes, just don't walk alone. Because progress is possible on your own, but it's way more powerful when you find your people. And that's how you keep turning things around. Well, next we're going to look at step 6, which is fuel your mind. I want you to think about this question. What's fueling your mind these days? Because just like your body needs the right fuel to stay healthy, your mind needs the right input to stay strong. And that's what step 6 is all about. Fuel your mind. Because here's what I know. You can't create a new life with the same old thinking. If you want to turn things around, you got to start by changing the way you think. The voices you listen to, the content you consume, the thoughts you entertain, they all shape who you become. There's a phrase that I come back to often. Your input determines your outlook. If you're constantly feeding your mind negativity, distractions, or noise, it's going to show up in your attitude, in your energy levels, and even in your decisions. But when you're intentional about what you're learning, what you're listening to, well, that's when things begin to shift. So here's the challenge. Be more intentional about what you allow in. I'm a big fan of books, podcasts, scripture, conversations, or even music that helps me think better. And over time, I've found that these help me live better, but this doesn't have to be overwhelming. You don't have to do all of these. But I do want to encourage you to do something. To start small. Maybe it's a morning journaling habit. Maybe it's listening to one podcast a week. Maybe it's reading one proverb a day. Whatever it is, just make the shift from consuming mindlessly to fueling intentionally. So here's my reflection question for you. What's one thing you've been consuming that you know isn't helping you grow? And what's one thing you could start consuming instead? That leads us right to our next step, which is to pick one way to fuel your mind this week. Just one. And then do it every day if you can. Because your thoughts shape your actions, and your actions shape your future. Remember, change your input, and you change your outlook. And that's how you'll keep turning things around. Well, next up, we're going to look at our final step, step 7. Take the next step. All right, here we are. We have made it to step 7 in this journey to turn things around. And honestly, this final step might be the most important step of all, and it's to take the next step. Because let's be real, you can reflect, journal, plan, and even visualize all you want, but at some point, you got to move. You got to take action. And I get it, sometimes we wait because we want things to be perfect. We want the full plan. We want perfect timing, and we want a guaranteed outcome. But here's what I've learned. Waiting for perfect is the fastest way to stay stuck. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next step in the right direction. Because progress doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from doing something. So let me ask you this. What's one step you've been avoiding? One call you need to make? One decision you've been putting off? Maybe it's one conversation that you know it's time to have. Whatever it is, this is your moment to stop overthinking it and to start doing it. But listen, it doesn't have to be dramatic. You're not trying to leap the whole staircase. You just need to take the next step. So here's my reflection question for you. What's one thing you can do today that moves you one step closer to the life you want? Not 10 things, not everything, just one. And here's your action step. Do it. That's it. Do the thing, because clarity is great, vision is powerful, habits are helpful, community matters, but none of it moves the needle unless you're willing to take action. Consistent action leads to real momentum. And momentum, that's how you turn things around. Well, you've come this far. Don't stop. It isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new journey, and I believe in you. So take the next step. Well, that's it. Those are the 7 steps to turn things around. I hope something in this series has sparked a new thought, a fresh mindset, or just reminded you that change is still possible. You don't have to do it all at once, but you can do something. So whether you're just starting out, you're picking yourself back up, or you're just trying to build some momentum, keep going. And if this series has helped you, make sure you hit that like button, share it with somebody else because they might need it in the season that they're facing too. Thanks for joining me, and remember, small steps turn into big change. You got this, and I look forward to seeing you along the journey.